So, Monday, June 10th, 2024, the Owens v. Eckerd court hearing took place, and prior to Gingras going off on his vacation out of the country, he made sure to post a blog with his thoughts about what happened in court. So let's jump into what he has to say, because I'm sure it's great. Owens v. Eckerd, now what? Some thoughts, posted by David Gingras on June 10th, 2024. Says, if asked to describe the trial in one word, ish, anti-climax. Sorry, that's terrible. I suck at humor. I know this. Moving on, I'm guessing everyone has the same main thoughts. Here are mine. I don't know if we agree on the same main thoughts. We might agree with some. That's what we're going to go through this for. But I don't think we agree on everything. And the anticlimax, no. I mean, was it like bam, like a trial on TV? No. But I thought the LA thing was a big point that was brought out. I also think that her breakdown was another big thing. So we can just differ on some of that. But his first point is, number one, 2 hours for the trial was effing bullshit. I do agree with that point. I agree 100%, as Owens would say. Nowhere even close to enough time to have a meaningful exploration of the story. Didn't have time to talk to Clayton. No closing, nada. It was like a New Year's Eve party that lasted from 8 to 10 p.m. Who does that? Okay, I am fully with Gingras on this first point. I do agree with that. Number two, the lack of time cut both ways. It's unquestionably hurt both sides. Okay. I can kind of agree with that because, he didn't get to go over all his stuff that was apparently going to prove Owen's innocent, or pregnant, whatever. But it didn't give a cross-examination, which would have been very interesting to hear, because I would have loved to see how that went down, because I think Clayton would have just been calm, cool, collected, and answered the questions he was asked, and his story still wouldn't have changed. That is my opinion. But Eckerd also did not get to bring up Maricini or Gillespie, which I know that Gingras is happy about. We also didn't get to hear from Owen's mom. I would love to hear what she has to say on that stand. We can all assume and speculate as to what she was going to say, backing her daughter, is what I'm assuming. That she knew, she saw her, things, she was pregnant, whatever it was going to be. It's really hard for me to accept sometimes families as witnesses, because most of the time they're just there supporting their person, and so I don't put a whole lot of credence in that unless they're actually calling balls and strikes and I can see that they're truthful But if they're like, no, they were wonderful, these people did nothing wrong ever, and da 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 da, that's where I'm like, okay, you're wasting my time being on this stand. But, okay, point one and point two, I can agree with Gingras. Gingras goes on to say, my personal bias view aside, um, sir, I don't think you're supposed to have a biased view. I think you're supposed to have the truth as a view. I mean, you can have your thoughts and stuff and whatever. We know you're biased, but once again, you still don't even have all the facts. You don't have the LA records to even prove her case or disprove her case. So I don't see, your client wasn't even fully honest with you or told you stuff because you didn't, because if you would have known about that, you would have had to disclose it to the defense and you didn't. So you either knew about the LA stuff and did not disclose it to defense, as you should have, and if you're Mr. Ethics play by the rule, that's not ethical or playing by the rules, or your client once again was not honest with you about things that could have helped your case. I don't think they actually would have, because I think it would have still been proven that she is a liar. But still, how can you be so biased on this? But he says, the lack of time hurt Clayton's side way more than it hurt ours. Our story was short and fairly basic. I don't think your story is basic. No basic bitches here. Did I get a chance to cover everything? Not even close, but we covered enough, and sometimes that's all you need. You didn't cover anything other than she said she was pregnant, but yeah, there's all these lies. That's what I got out of her testimony. And that your medical expert thinks that, she got pregnant from naked grinding and doesn't have all the timeline, doesn't even have all the facts to even consider in this case with his expert opinion. So, no, you needed a whole lot more, sir. By comparison, Clayton's approach was and has always been to try to drag way too much extraneous BS into the case. I don't personally fault him for this. If he only limited our story to things that happened between May through November 2023, this story is nowhere near as interesting, and boring stories don't sell very well. We're not going to be talking about May through November because she did stuff in February. She's done a lot of things after November 2023. So no, the story's not going to end there. He says, in my experience, simpler is almost always better. Then again, Clayton's effort to expand the case may have been a goldmine for YouTubers making sweet super cheddar off of each new video. Legally throwing so much irrelevant dirt out there was a big tactical mistake in my personal opinion. People are allowed to cover cases. Nobody's out here just spitting stuff off of their butt. They have receipts, they have pictures, they have documents that they're going over. And they're allowed to form opinions off of those things. There's nothing wrong with that. They're not out here claiming she did a bunch of stuff that's, like, they're not saying, oh, she killed somebody, because that didn't happen. Once again, here we go with the mowing. My rule, if a story requires more than 10 to 15 seconds to present, you risk losing your audience. Always keep it simple. Go back to basics. Well, you don't have an audience here. You have a judge. So I don't think you're going to risk losing your argument or audience if you can't present in 10 to 15 seconds. Sadly, this story isn't simple, and that's because of your client. That is more or less the approach I tried to use today, and for the record, I had about 100 pages of questions ready for everyone who did not testify, which I promptly threw out the window once the judge made it clear how little time we had. You knew how little time you had. She's said it from the beginning. Were we hopeful that stuff would get expanded out and stuff like that? Yeah, of course. We wish that would have happened. But it's a family court case. So, that's the rules, that's the rules. Okay, let's see if we can get through this part without the mower coming close to the window. Number 3, as a lawyer who has done this for 20 plus years, my view is Laura is an outstanding witness. Given the pressure she was under, I couldn't have asked her to do any better. Yes, the audience chuckled, GFY. Seriously hurt Laura, but I am beyond proud of Laura for what she did today. She got up there and lied. She got up there and put your butt on the line because there's more information that nobody knew about. How are you proud of that? That there's still undisclosed information in this case that she thought, after a court order, that she could just keep to herself, keep from her lawyer and everybody else, and that everything was fine. How are you proud of that? I would be pissed at my client if I were you. But that's me. Nope. The mowing came back a lot sooner than we thought. Number 4. My number one thing is that I always want to get to the truth. Do you? Because you want to turn a blind eye to October sonograms. You want to turn a blind eye to the boy profile sonogram. You don't want to comment on that. So I don't think you're seeking the truth. You're going with technicalities and legalities. There's nothing wrong with going with technicalities and legalities. It's law. Sometimes law doesn't always give people the justice they want. We hope, but it doesn't always. It's not a perfect system. But when you come out here and say you always want to get to the truth, no, you don't. You just want to have an argument that you can make for your client. You don't care whether that argument is true or it's not, because you would have done more digging. You would have looked at and addressed other things, but you didn't. Maybe you're interested in her truth, not the truth. Woodnick and Deandra clearly don't share that view. I think they do. Because all they want is for her to tell the truth. And all they've gotten from her is lies. And she admitted to those lies. Hey, I gave you this opportunity to tell the truth. We gave you the opportunity in the deposition to tell the truth. And you told us this, but that wasn't true. And then you told us this, and that wasn't true. Then you sat in court and told a judge and us something, and that was also not true. You signed documents knowing that those weren't true things and that nothing was going to come of it. That's why you were okay with signing it. And he says, this is just my personal opinion, but I feel they couldn't care less about the truth, and that's the shame. You're right, that is your personal opinion. And I don't see how you think that. He's going to get into something here where I don't think it was Deandra necessarily trying to just not be truthful. I think Deandra got a little bit mixed up because of some testimony, because Laura can't keep her facts straight because she doesn't know. It's hard to keep up with 10 years worth of lies. But, you know, they're not the ones with credibility issues here. Going into number 5. This really isn't the time or the place to air all my grievances. But let me give you one example of conduct that I feel is way across the line. But did you object? I'm gonna have to go back and see if you objected, because I don't remember if you objected to this line of testimony. If you did, good. I'm glad you preserved it. But it says, Laura admitted that when she got the 102 HCG test from October 16th, she knew it was bad news because it meant the pregnancy was in the process of ending, if it hadn't already ended. It is impossible to know for sure. No, it wasn't impossible. She could have gone to a doctor. She could have gone and gotten a sonogram, because she kept making sure that she was still pregnant with all the pee sticks. But, she didn't want to go to a doctor. In a moment of panic, she doctored the test to change the reading to 130 or whatever. And we know that number is like, he states the number later on. And she sent that to Mr. Neal, Dave Neal, because she thought it might shut him up. Dave Neal had only been talking about this case for a week. That's it. 1 week. And he wasn't the only one talking about this case. Everyone slams Laura for doing this, but not me. You should, because you're all about the truth, right? Playing by the rules and ethics and everything like this. But you're not pissed at her for doing this. I think you do not like the fact that this exists in this case. And I hope you told her, I know you doctored this, but if you doctor anything else while I'm your attorney, I'm out. We are not privy to those conversations, but I really hope you had many a stern talkings to from her. Granted, she doesn't like when she's talked too stern. And then he goes on with this ridiculous comparison. I compare it to the story from earlier this year where Princess Kate Middleton released a photoshopped image of her family after she had mysteriously dropped out of public view. She went missing because she was diagnosed with cancer, and she released a doctored photo as a way of trying to distract from that. The ruse worked for about 2 seconds before she was called out. That's photoshopping her into a picture. You know what the Kardashians do with their Kardashian Christmas card every year that has the entire family on it? If people weren't there for the picture, they Photoshop those family members in. That is not the same as doctoring evidence in a court case. And it took her forever to fess up about. She is no princess, Gingras. Laura's 130,000 or whatever HCG test was done for a similar purpose. Laura only sent that to the folks like Dave Neal. She never used it in court, and she didn't fake the document for any malicious or nefarious purpose. She was just trying to regain some privacy. And yes, it was a dumb way to do it. Seriously, Kate Middleton has a huge PR machine behind her, and she made the same mistake. Different, but the same. It is different, but it is not the same. Kate just wanted a picture saying, yeah, here I am. Okay, she might not have been there, but it's nobody's business where Kate is at and what she is doing, or whether she has cancer or not. That is her information. Should they have faked the picturing that putting a picture in? No. But that's not malicious. That's like, hey, I'm still here. Just like the Kardashians do with their Christmas cards. Hey, look, we're this big happy family. All of us got together for this big Christmas picture, when actually, no, they didn't. Is it deceptive? Yeah, a little bit. But people are living their lives. They are not doing it to lie and convince people of certain things. And just because she didn't submit it in court didn't mean it wasn't going to be used in court. I'm sure she thought, no, I didn't put it into court, so Owens probably thought it wasn't going to be used in court. But when you're doctoring things, trying to convince people of things, and you have a history of it, and you've admitted to that history of doctoring evidence, it's coming in. Because you are out here trying to spin a narrative, and you're spinning it with lies. Why not just spin it with the truth? But you don't have anything for your truth. And you need people to believe your truth. And that's not what people are here for. It's the easiest thing to do to prove you're pregnant. And she has not been able to do it in over a year. She can't produce anything. She didn't want to produce anything. That's why there's still non-disclosed information out there. Which I don't think there's any information to get. But she hasn't been able to produce a single thing other than pea stick tests that can indicate other things that were never investigated. But he goes on to say, my point is, Deandra dishonestly, in my opinion, tried to misrepresent the facts by claiming that Laura doctored the 130,000 or whatever HCG tests twice. No, Deandra, she did not, and you know that. I don't think she purposely tried to misrepresent things. I think when Deandra knew about the doctored 131,902 and the regular one, 102, and then when she got on the stand, she mentioned 102,000. So that put it in Deandra's mind that, wait a minute, she just said there's one out there for 102,000, and we already have the original 102 and the other doctored one of 131,902. So I think that's where she got a little bit confused about there being 3 instead of 2, when all it was the fact that Owens just didn't remember the number, and so she just threw out the 102,000. Which, why wouldn't have 102,000 have worked? Just adding 3 zeros. Why did you have to make it so weird? Because 102 is 1,000 is just 2 on point, and it should be way different than that. I don't know. I don't think Deandra tried to purposely mislead, because during that hearing, I am sitting there like, no, Deandra, no, there were only 2. Like, just please stop. Like, don't pound this too hard. And she did pound it hard. And I'm just like, no, I don't like this, because it was confusion and stuff. Um, I was cringing at that moment because I'm just like, oh God, no. Anyways, Gingras is going to say, what happened is when Deandra first asked Laura about the test, which originally said 102 on the genuine document, Laura said she changed it to something much higher, and she threw out a figure like 102,000, which makes sense. Deandra then showed her the actual fake document, which clearly said a different number, 131,902. Anyone who was following along understands exactly what happened. When Laura was asked to describe the fake version of the document she didn't have in front of her, based on her memory, she admitted to changing it to a much higher number, which is true. Laura said something like 102,000. Makes sense given the true number was 102, but the actual figure in the document was 131,902. Did Laura lie, perjury? No. Simply didn't remember the exact figure. Why would she with everything else running through her mind? I'm going to agree with Gingras on this point. I don't think that Laura openly lied about the 102,000 number. I think she didn't remember all 6 digits that she put on that document because it's so random. And if she didn't have it in front of her, I think that's why. 102,000 or more or something like that is what I think she was trying to say. But she knew it was in the like 100,000s. So I agree as far as this is what happened. But I don't agree with the point that he thinks that Deandra was purposely misrepresenting the facts. I think she was a little bit confused by Laura's statements, and it's hard to keep up with Laura's statements. Sometimes lawyers harp on things or don't simply understand them the way that they come across. Like in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, when Rottenborn was like, I have other uses for your throat. And he's taking that to mean that he's going to like choke her and do other things. And we're like, Rottenborn, that is not what other uses for your throat means. Not at all. Mm-mm. Even if it was said in this case with the BJs in a flirty way, the other uses for your throat, Laura would do exactly what Amber Heard did and make that like, oh, they're threatening to choke me and hurt me. But it's like, no, they're referring to BJs. And then even in the Karen Reed trial right now, they keep the lawyers on Karen Reed's team keep talking about, oh, they were in the fighting stance and practicing fighting moves before they got into a fight. I don't think that's what was going on. I think there was some grab ass and some horse playing going on, and Brian Higgins just trying to like show off and be like macho in front of Karen, and kind of flirt in a way and try to impress her while she's with her boyfriend, so it's not so obvious. Like, it's weird, but I don't think it was like, oh, let's just practice our fighting here in front of everybody at the bar so that when we get back to the house, we're fully ready to beat John O'Keefe up in the Karen Reed trial. So those are things that I don't think they're purposely being misrepresented. I think that that is their view on it for some reason, and they need to step back and take a look, which some of them have time to do. In this trial, there was no time to take a step back and correct that part. But we also know that, is it possible that Laura created more? Yeah. I still have to go back and see if there was an actual 102 document, 102,000 document, that somebody said there was, I believe on a Megan Fox or Dave Neal thing. But anywho, so I don't think it was purposely misrepresented. I do think that it was a misunderstanding, and Gingras's account of what happened is true. That's the way I saw it. I don't know about any of y'all, but that's the way I saw it. He goes on to say that Deandra tried to twist that minor slip of memory to make it look like Laura created two versions of the fake document, one that said 102,000 and one that said 131,902. Deandra must have repeated that dramatic point 3, 4, maybe 5 times. But Deandra knew that there were not two different versions of that document. She knew for a fact, she knew this because there is no version that says 102,000. If you have one, show it to me and I'll apologize and buy you nachos. Are you going to try to poison us with those nachos? Maybe in Deandra's mind, trying to take advantage of a small mistake like this is fair game. I don't agree at all. In my view, it's dishonest. It's trying to present a false impression that you know is false. I really don't think that's what she was trying to do. I can see why you're taking it that way, because that's a defense mechanism. But I really don't think that, I don't think Deandra was trying to mislead anybody. And I don't think at this point about these documents that Laura was even trying to deceive anybody. I think there was just a between the communication, there was just a misstep. And neither one were understanding neither one. And so it was hard to question and hard to answer because both of them aren't on the same page. Because they're both like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Again, my opinion. But the truth is, ethically compromised lawyers are part of this profession, which is exactly why I refuse to walk away from this line of work, because I want to do everything I can to help bring the truth to light, even and especially because there are people like Deandra and Greg out there trying to do the exact opposite. Now, if you take out that last part of Deandra and Greg trying to, they are ethically compromised lawyers, I will agree with your statement. There is ethically compromised lawyers that are part of that profession. It sucks because those lawyers give the good lawyers a bad name. And if you are a lawyer that wants to get to the truth, I don't know if you are. This case hasn't been a good example. But there are some lawyers that have been on the right side. I think it was Lori Vallow's lawyer. He had been on a good side of one case. And then he was on Lori's side. And different things, and I don't like the way he handled things in that case. So different cases bring out different parts of lawyers, and we do need lawyers that want to do everything they can to bring out the truth. But in this case, I don't think you fully wanted to do that, because I think you were even scared of what the truth is, because you knew you can't believe her fully. So you don't want to know the truth, just like a lot of criminal defense attorneys for like murders. They do not want to know if you actually killed this person or not. Don't tell them. They don't care about that. They are here to just defend your right. But do not tell them that you did it. They don't want to know that part of the truth, because then they can't go in there and fight for your innocence. And I think that's what happened here. Number 6 in his points. Dr. Medchill had a lot more to say, but due to the time constraints, we had to limit his comments to only stuff that mattered. And at the end of the day, Dr. Medchill told me over and over and over again, his view is exactly what he said. Laura was pregnant, no question. She got pregnant, and the pregnancy failed pretty early on. We can't know exactly when, but every single data point we have lines up with that narrative. The only data points that don't line up, that we know aren't genuine, is like the 131,902 HCG reading. The Planned Parenthood sonogram isn't part of his analysis because, as we know, it can't be verified, so we just don't consider it. But you need to consider those things. And you're going based off of all the medical reports that Medchill reviewed are all basically her narrative. None of it is the doctor's findings. None of it is, yes, I saw her, she, her weight was this, which was higher than this. The measure of the belly was this much, because they do measure your belly. Heartbeat was this. All this stuff that are things that the doctor observed. All of it is, all the medical records are just, she says she has PCOS. She says she was pregnant and had miscarriages or had an abortion on these days. She says she has epilepsy and is on epilepsy medications. She says she was pregnant and she had fetal membrane tissue that discharged from her. Like, it's all self-report. None of it's based on doctor's analysis, except for the P-sticks. They just read the P-stick. But everything else is self-reporting. And so I don't think, based on self-reporting, you can come to that full conclusion because you're missing a lot of data points. Yeah, I can put a lot of data points that can match, but if I leave off of some of the other ones, like the questionable data points, you should have put the data points on your little chart and then put some questions on your data point and marked your questions and see the question data points and the regular data points and see how those matched up. But he didn't. So, like I said, I don't want to put it all on Dr. Medchill. I don't agree with some of his stuff, but I also don't think he had all the evidence. And really and truly, the medical experts don't go looking for extra information. You can see it in almost all the trials when they're like, but did you ever see this report? And they'll be like, no, that report was never given to me. And then they're like, well, if I would have read this report, then yeah, that would make this part untrue. So it's important that they have all those. But the experts don't know if there's more information out there or not. They're just told, hey, can you examine this information that we give you and give me an opinion on this information? Not, hey, we have other stuff, but we just need you to analyze this. Don't worry about this other stuff that we're not actually going to give you. So, but as far as for objective facts, we don't know are genuine. They all support Laura's story. All of them, literally every single one. Well, y'all 3, or let's say 5, including her parents, might be the only ones that believe that. Number 7, Dr. Medchill had no bias in this case. He never met Laura or her family prior to this case, and he wasn't doing anyone a favor. He was not a friend of Laura's or Laura's family or anything like that. He was paid for his time, and we disclosed every detail of this to Woodnick without him even asking for it because transparency is important. You know, that's another dig at the at Woodnick and Clayton's defense team. And I do believe that. I don't think he had a bias in this case. I don't think any of that. I think he gave an expert opinion on the details that he was given. At the end of the day, I'm not going to make any predictions about how the court will rule once we get the ruling. I might offer some views about it, or I might not. We think you might have some things to say about it. It'll be interesting to see what his blog post is going to be. And yeah, it's hard to make predictions of what the court's going to do. It's sometimes hard to know what the jury is going to do in cases as well. Like, you just never know. You hope that it turns out the way you want it, in the way that most people see things, and in the way of justice. But Casey Anthony is a good example of when justice isn't served in the court. That I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If I believe the court made a decision that's legally incorrect, we will pursue an appeal. But because I don't know what the judge is going to do, I'm not going to speculate about what that future looks like to me. Oh, you just said you're going to win this appeal and probably not in court. That's what you've said before. 9. Yes, Laura was upset when the audience laughed at her. I can't believe how strong she was to sit in there with a courtroom full of people just projecting hate towards her. I don't think anybody was projecting hate. There was a guy that made a comment that he shouldn't have in the middle of her testimony, but I didn't see anybody out there or in the courtroom that was just spewing hate at her. So, I don't know. Can she assume and speculate that most of those people are here for Clayton and not for her? Yeah. But I'm sure there were people that were sitting behind her, whether they were part of her side or not. It was just the place that they sat. Laura is such a good person. She has just been so unfairly portrayed in all of this. I don't think she's been unfairly portrayed. I think she does have some good qualities. She's not all bad, but this part of her that is caused by something, she needs to find out what causes her to do this. Separation anxiety, some kind of trauma happened that causes her to deal with this. Or she just wants to be loved. There's something there that has caused her to do this through the years. Do I think she does things for charity? Yes. Do I think that she loves animals and cares about animals more than anything in this world? Yes. I think she should focus her energy on that. Animals love you unconditionally. And the only time they leave you is if you get rid of them or they pass away, which is sad. But you have good qualities, and you can make the changes and stop doing this and start leading your life better and making yourself a good person. You can be a good person now, but in the past you weren't. You did things that you shouldn't have done that were evil at some points, but you went to therapy, you learned from it, you're not doing that anymore. You are self-aware that what you were doing was horrible, but you don't do that anymore. That's what you could do. I've gotten to know Laura extremely well over the last 2.5 months. She is nothing like what people think. She also likes to play a facade. And she always has an attitude. You can't tell me she don't have an attitude with you. She's always nice to you. Because if you've griped at her, I'm pretty sure she's gotten defensive and gotten an attitude. Or you didn't get that way with her because she would fire you. She also says, I also don't think today was the cakewalk Clayton expected. I don't think Clayton has ever thought that this was going to be a cakewalk. Because he knows at the end of the day that if for some reason this judge believes that she thought she was actually pregnant, that while he has belief in the public eye, he doesn't have it, and he won't get it in court. I think that's been a huge worry for him. Said when the trial ended, Clayton sat at his table looking like he was about to cry. He didn't. On my way out the door, I did wish him well, and he returned the comment. It's because Clayton doesn't fully have ill will. He knows you're doing a job. He may not like that job, but he is the type of person that is just going to be cordial. I think he was either at Clayton, and even if he did cry, okay, this part is over. Now it's a waiting process. So that could just be a huge sigh of relief that this day that has been anticipated for a year is over with. But he also may not like the fact that everything didn't come out. You know, they didn't get the chance for Maricini and Gillespie to get up there and show things. They didn't get a chance to go over a lot of things that he wanted out there maybe. So I don't think Clayton thought this was just going to be a cakewalk and walk in there all cocky. I don't think that at all. Gingras says, the fact is that trials are emotionally brutal for all parties. That's why it's called trial, because the experience is extremely difficult, aka trying for everyone. Yes, trials are. They are huge emotionally. It's a big deal. And it's a lot. It's a lot on everybody that is a participant in it. 10. I didn't have the opportunity to make a closing argument, so I'll end this post with a final few thoughts. Legal issues and arguments aside, my personal view is that both Clayton and Laura need to learn from this, move on to become better people. Both of them. Both of them made mistakes. Both of them did things they shouldn't have. Both of them need to remember to err is human, to forgive is divine. I think that Clayton has owned up to his mistakes. That's the thing. He accepts that he is human and he made mistakes. He shouldn't have slept with her. He shouldn't have crossed the client personal boundary. And things like that. He's owned up to him. Owens hasn't. She's owned up to a few, but not all. And you can't move on and become better from this if you are not self-aware. And you can't even tell yourself the truth. So kids, stop fighting. You don't have to kiss and make up, but Jesus, can't you just let this go? And that's mostly a question for Clayton, since Laura tried to let this go 6 months ago. But she still lies. She lied today. So she's still telling lies. So no, she hasn't let this go. Clayton and Laura are still both young. Laura, like any woman would want, wants to have a family. She wants to be loved. She wants to be happy. And I'm sure Clayton does too. I can agree with that. I'm sure she does want a family. I'm sure she does want to be loved and she wants to be happy. But the way she's going about trying to get those things is not okay. We outsiders should not be focused on how to destroy either of them. We should focus on how we can help lift them both up, guiding them to be better people. No person is beyond salvation. Yeah, there's a few people that are beyond salvation. Do I think Owens is one of them? No. I think there's much room for salvation. Don't care what they did yesterday. The question is, what will they do tomorrow? Well, she will continue to lie about this. That's it. Even once the judge, if the judge comes down and says, you're a liar, she will still go on saying she didn't lie about any of these 4 men. We have told her to go get help. Go focus on some things. Go focus on music. Go focus on your animals. Go focus on these things. We have tried to tell her ways to be a better person. Tell the truth, and we can move on. We're not out here fully trying to destroy them. We're out here just putting factual things out here, things that are found, things that are said in court. That's all we're doing. I don't think that's focusing on destroying somebody. They destroyed themselves with their own actions. That's not us that destroyed her. She did it herself. At the end of the day, as everyone knows, I am seriously imperfect person. All sorts of mistakes, many of which were way worse than anything Laura Clayton did here. Interesting. I'm gonna let you know those things. And I think this is the first time that he's actually said that he makes mistakes. And that he's imperfect. Because the way he's been talking in all his other blog posts makes it sound like he is perfect. He's a perfect lawyer. He's perfect everything. Everybody else makes mistakes but him. That's how him and Laura have operated during this thing. So congrats on finally admitting that you aren't perfect. He says, but I learned from my mistakes and I own them. I still own them and I've grown up and moved on and I'm proud of that fact. So you've grown up and you're not making mistakes anymore. Because you've learned from all the mistakes that you've made and now you're good. I think you made some mistakes in this case. I think there are things that you could have done better. One of the most powerful things any human can do is accept your own flaws. Agree. Agree. Don't fear them. Use them. Use your mistakes as a ladder you can climb up, not as an anchor that defines you and ties you to your past. Make a mistake, own it, get up, dust yourself off, apologize, and mean it, then move on and don't do it again. That's the thing here, Gingras. She has done it again and again and again and again. She didn't learn from her mistakes. Well, I guess she did, because things that didn't go her way in one court, she decided to do it a different way in another court case with a different man. She had to up her game almost every time. But I do agree. Own your mistakes. Get up and dust yourself off. If you apologize, you better mean it. Because sorry, to me, and my kids even know this, I don't want to hear you're sorry. Did I used to make them apologize for things? Yes. I want them to be empathetic and sympathetic. But don't tell me you're sorry and then 5 minutes later, a day later, or a week later, do that same thing after you told me you were sorry and you weren't going to do that again and you knew that was wrong. And then you go and you do the exact same thing. I don't want to hear the sorry this time. Because apparently your sorry meant nothing to at that time because you did it again. You can show me you're sorry through your actions by not doing this step again. Show me you learned from this. My kids know that. Make your actions match your words. Because if they don't, they mean nothing. Have integrity. But it's a thing with regrets too. If you learn something from it, or it has made you into a better person and who you are today, that is good, they don't define you. And maybe you shouldn't regret them, because without those mistakes, you wouldn't be who you are today. And hopefully the person you are today is a great person. And part of it is because of your mistakes. that you learned from and you grew from. Once this case is finally closed, the debate about whether justice was served will always linger. A court can rule that Laura was never pregnant, just like a court can say O.J. Simpson didn't murder his wife. Courts are funny that way. Everyone in the legal system tries their best to find the truth. Well, most of us do. In the end, sometimes we succeed and sometimes we fail, but we always keep trying. I think we should always keep trying for the truth. Never give up on the truth. And it was a jury that said O.J. Simpson didn't order. And you know what? They didn't say O.J. Simpson didn't murder his wife. They found him not guilty. Because the glove don't fit, you must acquit. If this is the glove that you found and you're saying this belonged to the murderer and it doesn't fit O.J. Simpson's hand, well, that's a problem. That's reasonable doubt. And you can't have that. What the courts don't find, what the jury is not finding, is they're innocent. They're just saying, if you want to put on a guilty or not guilty thing, it's not guilty. But not guilty doesn't mean innocent. It's just saying, maybe he did some things. But how can you convict somebody on a piece of evidence that doesn't match your storyline? They should have never made him try on the glove in front of that jury. That was a mistake. Many lawyers have learned from that mistake, and you don't do things that you don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't ask questions you don't know the answer to. So, yeah, that was a huge fail for them. But because of that mistake in trial, I bet those lawyers never did anything like that again, and lawyers now have learned from that mistake to help them be more successful in their cases. If somebody's a bad person, more than likely, whether it is this case or another case, a lot of times they'll end up back in jail. Not every time. Casey Anthony hasn't ended up back in jail, but she hasn't learned from her mistakes either. She still is not owning the truth. She's still lying to everybody, in my opinion. So that is it for this video. That is the end of Gingras' blog post and his after trial thoughts. Ending with our quote of the day: be like a tree. Stay grounded, connect with your roots, turn over a new leaf, bend before you break, enjoy your unique natural beauty, and keep growing. That goes to Owens, it goes to attorneys, it goes to Clayton, Maraschini, Gillespie, Matt, and all of you out there. Keep growing. Stay grounded in truth. You know, don't let your ego get too much. When you need to turn over a new leaf for a new chapter of your life, do it. Enjoy your unique natural beauty, because you are beautiful. Everybody is beautiful in their own way. They have something unique about them. Whether it's a physical beauty or an inner beauty, there is something beautiful about you. There is something unique about you that is like no other human on this planet. Be yourself. I am the Loud Little Ducky. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share it out. We are almost at 500. And subscribe. And I will see you next time.